Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, João. Hi, Trond.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, there's sound too.
Welcome. So today we have a double speaker for our Friday Small Talk. It's one of the last of the season, so I would like to thank every one of you who kept watching us during this episode that we've been organizing in the past years. Where we aim to basically talk about the topics of our workshops in an informal way. So there's no slides, but to call it no slide would have been too obvious. So we just want to have a conversation with our trainers and understand in very simple terms what they do and what their workshops are about. Each small talk is becomes better with your questions from home, from wherever you are. So feel free to make it interactive. And actually, you are very welcome to do so. So during the small talk, we're going to do some stops, some breaks, where we're going to read your questions. So any curiosity you have about the topic of the workshop will be answered. Today, I'm really happy to have with us João Rosa and Trond Hjorteland. Hope I said it right. Who are our new trainers for a new workshop we are bringing to Milan in September. And this workshop is called Intentional Architecture. Sounds very promising title. So I would start straight from the basics. So what is intentional architecture?
Well, so last year I was in Barcelona in a conference, and I actually, having dinner with Mark Richards, the author of some books from O'Reilly. And I was talking that we don't have enough intentionality with our architecture. And he opened his eyes. I need to grab these because, yes, we don't have enough intentional architecture. And this is what started to boil up, right? Everyone can say, yes, we have intentional architecture, but I could challenge everyone. Do we really have? Do we really take into consideration the environment around us? Do we take into consideration the actual state of our company and what is able to do? Or are we just looking to the technical components and say, well, because we are using Kafka on AWS, we are being intentional. So when we say intentional, we don't mean the technical components, but rather how do we do architecture and design to meet human needs? Are we really being intentional on that direction? And that is how the name pop up, intentional architecture, and that we're gonna take people on a journey, how to scan the environment, how to look to the current capabilities in the company, and how to generate these options to keep evolve and be a sustainable company where people are happy to work. This is what we're going to go around the workshop.
Excellent. So thanks, Rob, for this first answer that is going to give us some framing on what we are going to talk about. So, of course, we're talking about, I can summarize it as team structure and team organization rather than only the technical aspect. And one of the things that we see on the workshop description is to put the people at the center of the design somehow. So I understand this came, the genesis of it was talking to someone who's already into this. And did you have any other, well, I'm going to skip from question to question. We had a conversation with the folks before about how this came about and stuff. Some of it is already answered, but is there any other moments where you felt we need to make this kind of decision more intentional? So basically my question would be, why intentional in the first place as opposed to non-intentional? So you mentioned before that the focus was on the tech only.
Yeah, so intentional versus accidental, right? Because when you just look to a portion or a fraction of what people in charge to design an architect system should do, lots of decisions are accidental and something plays out, others don't play out. What we try to bring here is the frame of thought to analyze more around us, analyze more around the environment, and start generating options about the consequences. If we use this technology, this has the consequence to the teams. If we don't have these skills on the teams, how can we acquire these? But also doing this in a way that is collaborative rather than imposed and top-down, because everyone has their experiences, how we perceive the world. And we can do this together. We can do this in a different way that is not silo, is not ivory tower. And this is what we're going to explore in the workshop, how to have intentionality when we have a group of people, because it's very easy. I'm starting my own company and I'm doing software alone. Well, all decisions is with me. It's different to 10, 20 people or 100 people. And there are lots of practices that actually come from social sciences where we get our inspiration, and we can embed that in our industry, in software industry, and also with good practices. We're going to talk this more later, but with good practices that we already know in our industry. By meshing this together, we hope creating this intentionality, to evolve architecture, to evolve organizations, where actually humans are in the center, where rather than we put the machine, the software in the center, we actually put humans in the center.
Very good point. Thanks for that and for clarifying a bit more. I'm taking notes, but I'll leave them for later because some things that you said are really interesting. Now, again, talking a bit more about what is in the description, and sometimes some words might sound a bit obscure or just, how to say, somehow jargon-ish. So when we talk about open social technical system thinking, what do we refer to? Because, of course, it's about this, right? Team architecture, team structure. And what you say is we take inspiration from, for example, social sciences and stuff. So what is the context of this, of open social technical system thinking? What do we mean by that?
Yeah, as João mentioned, this comes from social sciences predominantly, and this is where I've spent most of my time, actually since COVID hit, because I started reading this material, papers and stuff like the fall before, I believe. So I had a lot of time during COVID to read up on this stuff. Both me and João are probably our natural sciences background, or IT or STEM or whatever we want to call it. So we don't have this background. So this was a new area to sort of explore. And just to bring it back to what the title of the workshop is, intentional architecture. I'd actually pitched that to one of these practitioners in the social sciences on this, and they said, "Oh, that was cheeky. That's a different name to purposeful systems." Because that's the term they use, right? So they see organizations as a system, and then you have to align the purposefulness of not only the people but also the organization as a whole. And then you in a sort of a IT technical space, you also have a lot of technologies that you deploy. Not only like IT technology, but also the techniques that we use. So techniques in a more broader term, technology in a more broader term. And what we see is that you can't optimize for either of these. You have to optimize them jointly. You have to look at both of them at the same time. Because like human relations, they focus a lot on the social bit, right? You increase the pay and security and all that. And you're going to send you on like a course on how to communicate better and all that stuff. So you focus a lot on the social bit. Like while others might focus too much on the technical bit, and this is what they discovered in the social sciences and going back to like the 50s, is that they sort of introduced new technology, and if you ignore the social aspects of it, the technology is not going to perform as well as you would expect it to do. So back to what João said earlier, is that you have to bring people back into the system. You're not going to throw away the technology, of course, obviously, but you have to jointly view them, and that is what a social technical system is. And in an organization context, that is your organization, your teams, and your people. The open bit, just a few words on the open bit, because social technical system design is like a term on its own, STS, systems theory or thinking, STS. we added open there because there is a like a branch of social technical system thinking that goes in that focus on systems that are open, which means that they are exposed to the environment, and the environment can be like your industry and your competitors, but it also is the wider social field, how people feel, how they experience the world. I mean, people come to work as a whole person. They don't come to work as a machine part fitting into that organization doing exactly just that. So we have to realize that every system is generally open, and the open social system thinking is just taking care of that as well, not just closing it and imagine that you can create a what a colleague of mine here in Norway called a terrarium, which you really can't create because that's unnatural. That is not you're going to limit your system by doing that, by closing it. So keeping it open. Hope that helped.
Super. Yeah, definitely. And so with open, basically, we mean also the person as a whole, not only like the worker kind of thing. It's really interesting.
Exactly.
So my next question would be then, so we're talking about something which is on one hand somehow new because it puts together a lot of things that were already in the industry, in the IT industry, taken from social sciences and stuff as well. But also something which is indeed technical. So the question would be, so who would this workshop be for? So who is going to get the most out of it? And I guess if might apply to someone who has some kind of power or has to make choices in their company. Is that correct?
João, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I can go. So this is designed, this is target for people that design systems and design social technical systems. So, depending on your company, and the titles can be a software architect, but can be a senior engineer or a principal engineer. That depends on can be engineer managers and directors and even people from HR, right? Because the HR policies can constrain how we're going to do this. So is this type of people that especially are feeling that something is not quite right? I've been talking with some people. So part of my consultant work is also being interim CTO. So I'm building new teams in a company where I'm interim CTO. So interviewing and building first teams. And I'm looking for senior engineers that are uncomfortable. And I interview very interesting people that say, well, I excel when what I do, and you can see my portfolio, but I feel that something is wrong. And I always go, tell me more. Yeah, because the way that we interact is not quite right, and then solution is not there. The workshop is really targeted to these people that, okay, we know to do our stuff, but there is more. And they quite don't know what this more is. So this is what we want to explore as a group. Okay, more can be this open part that comes from social sciences, how we get these signals, how do we learn from the environment, and now how do we plan to be intentional to change the architecture of our software, or spin up 3 new teams, or stop doing something and adopt a SaaS solution, whatever that means. So we are looking for these people, right, that are uncomfortable with current status quo and think, there is a different way. There is something that I'm missing, because I passed this by myself. Trond mentioned, so I also have a formal education with information systems, and it's everything very technical. How to normalize a database, the patterns to code, and how to do this. And then I started, and then inside of me, I felt there is something wrong. There is something missing. And I start this journey as well. What is missing? And, also with lots of influences from Trond, okay, here is something that was missing. Can we put this together? We think that we can. That's why we create this workshop. That's why we are giving this workshop. And here we are. This is for who it is, for these people that have these responsibilities and feel uncomfortable.
Excellent. So we are aiming to provide a new, more comprehensive way, which takes into account the whole human aspect for people who, as you just said, want to change, but maybe don't know really where to start from. And I read in the description, and of course with João and Trond, we had conversations before going live. There are 3 main topics or methodologies, how you want to call them, or frames that are DDD, team topologies, and Wardley mapping, and that come into play into this, because all the 3 approaches or as said, ideas, let's be as generic as possible, put the humans at the very center of their action. So how do they relate to each other, and how can they help in this? Probably, disclaimer, this is not a workshop to learn DDD, team topologies, and Wardley mapping, just to make it 100% clear. But how are we going to use them during the workshop? Basically, that would be my question.
I just want to say something first, and you can go into sort of the details, because after all, these are the things that you probably know fairly a bit more than me, actually. The thing is that both all of these, domain-driven design, team topologies, and Wardley mapping, they can work perfectly. And if you hit the right wave, they are like spot on, right? Everything is going smoothly. Domain-driven design is like everybody's engaged, and you're creating the fantastic solutions. You do team topologies and have these fantastic teams, and Wardley mapping, and you would introduce super strategy and all that stuff. But a lot of times it doesn't. And why doesn't it sometimes? And why does it work other times? And it's not it's all about context and all that. And that's, of course, is sort of the case. But what we try to attempt here is like we bring in social sciences so we can explain why domain-driven design works there, but didn't work so well there. And why the team topologies, why do the streamline team just falls out in this company, while the other one, there's platforms everywhere, right? Or the Wardley mapping. There's these people are just creating products everywhere. They are not like creating or building on existing solutions or like technical solutions that's already solved and all that stuff. Everybody wants to build. They believe they can build something better, right? So it is bringing the social sciences in and understanding these techniques better, and also maybe even tune them a little bit to make them work better in different contexts. That's at least my take on it. I don't know, Charles, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, and there is a 4th one, that is the Easter egg. That is what underpins and have this. That is the dual stage, the framework from social sciences that explained why. We will not throw that out, the name that can scare people away, but we're going to use these two frame. And the point is that the first part, the first stage, it's about learning about the environment and create action plans, right? And how to do this as a group. Because let's call a thing that people identify, how do we do strategy? People think that do strategy, or most companies do strategy in a hermetic room with executives, and people can, sliding proposals through the mailbox, and off we go. That's why strategy fails. And lots of us, even in engineering, or I have a software background, think that strategy is that. I thought that strategy was this dark magic that you need to evoke something from, ancient ages to do strategy. Actually, it's very easy when we take the social sciences. And here is where Wardley maps fits, because Simon Wardley created these visualizations that, how can we analyze the environment? Because there is different ways to analyze the environment. We're going to use different ones. And Wardley Maps is very good doing that. Where we are, where can we go? So the body of knowledge is perfect. We are just putting the why. And this is first part. The second part, using domain-driven design and team topologies, is on the second stage. Okay, we have these action plans. What are the things that we need to do? Maybe we need to change the scope of teams. Now the software needs to evolve. And we find that is in this body of knowledge, they have something in common. They are holistic, so that they look to the whole. They don't try to partition everything. But especially with software, we need boundaries, right? Because especially when companies grow and software systems become more complex, if we don't have proper boundaries and isolate language, we know where we end. That's why now domain-driven design and techniques with domain-driven design are picking up. And also team topologies give us a pattern language that is what we were missing to talk about team types. But and these lots of people forget about these, the interactions between teams. When do we want to use an interaction that is collaboration? When do we want to do X as a service? Because this has implications. And we just cannot throw things, as Trond was saying. Lots of people use team topologies because everyone wants to have a platform and being the new stuff. But how to design platforms? Where are the boundaries of these platforms? We're going to collaborate to discover boundaries, and when we move to X as a service. And this is all the part of being intentional that is missing. Therefore, we use this Easter egg to give this frame and explain why that is what is missing. And then we bring the techniques and the principles of these techniques, that these bodies of knowledge that people are used to, that is from our industry, to glue everything together, to have a coherent journey where people start to see how can we be more intentional.
Just a little addition there, because it may sound like now that we are bringing in techniques and insight from social sciences into IT and sort of build on that. But there is also a flow the other way around, because the social scientists are really interested in what's going on in IT. Like the SDS group around the world, they're really curious. So I believe that using these techniques, that actually the three that we mentioned here, we can actually maybe even affect how they see things from the social science perspective. Because it is as you say, the team topology, there are team types, the Wardley map, the strategy, right? How to do strategy, domain-driven design, how to actually create sort of a congruent organization to the technical bits. And so, I mean, it all fits together in a quite nice and beautiful way.
Yeah, of course, as also João was saying, with regards to strategy not happening in a dark room, no change happens in a bubble, right? It's all the things communicating to each other and influencing each other one way and the other way. So thank you for pointing that out, because otherwise it seems like, okay, we are just taking this from them. But actually, as we know, there's a lot of interest in the culture of work as the IT industry has been developing, because from the outside it might seem, yeah, they're just folks, typing on the machine, but actually the complexity is unbelievable. And if you don't know about it, it's quite surprising, actually. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that. Now, we briefly mentioned this workshop is taking place in person. So we've had a lot of work to do with Avanza Coperta, as when we had to, our business was to do in-person workshops. Then with COVID, all of it became remote, but happily now some in-person are happening again. And we know that there's a big importance in the practical activities, whether it's in person, in the room, or what's not. So that's my question to you. Of course, we're going to have some theoretical parts to explain concepts, but we believe that practical is as important, if not even more. So how do you plan to structure these 2 days that we're going to spend together when it comes to theory versus practice?
Yeah, I can say that the whole exercise, the workshop, is going to be predominantly practical, because what we're bringing in, not only the three that we mentioned here, but actually two really core techniques, actually three techniques from social sciences as well. So we are melding this together. So it's going to be a hands-on workshop altogether. But what we're going to do is that we're going to introduce theory as we go along, because all these practices from social sciences are infused by theory. They are based on a solid theoretical background. So why are we doing this in this order? Why are we doing this before the other? What's the structure of this thing? It's all informed by theory. So, and also experience and of course experiments, but it is sort of funded in a solid theoretical framework. So I think that's going to be interesting. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I think we also can use that theory to explain things that we see in the other techniques that we're going to that we are taken with us from IT, domain-driven design, and team topologies, and multi-mapping and whatnot. Yeah.
Cool. So I guess we can expect what's now Zoom breakout rooms will be group works in tables and the likes, and a rain of post-its.
Yeah, actually, I just want to point out that I'm happy that we're able to do it live because actually some of the social scientists say that some of the at least the social sciences technique that comes from social sciences they are funded on being in the same room together because it's a social interaction thing, and you don't get that with a 2D remote thing. I would like to experiment a little and see how far we can push it. Like we did during COVID, we pushed Eventstorm quite far doing online. So it could potentially be done, but I'm really happy to be able to sort of show people and be in the room together, at least for these parts.
Yeah, we can't wait as well. We've started doing in-person workshops the last year or so. The more we can do, of course, the better now. And we'll see how it goes because it seems like there's a lot in this workshop, and we are really happy to organize it together and see how it all fits together. Another question we always have at Small Talk is like, okay, that's cool, but what kind of people we will benefit from this? We already said, but with an approach like this. So what companies would be the best fit for it? Let's say, would it be medium, small, large? Of course, we know maybe large, more resistant to change or not. So any thoughts to share about this?
Yeah, so any size, right? So it's very open, everyone is any size, but for this to really work needs to be these companies that knows that traditional methods that have been pushed since the 70s and 80s are not working. And actually, as a consultant, I work with a telco here in this part of Europe. There's more than 3,000 people that, I was working with C-level on moving the organization, helping them, supporting them to find new boundaries and ways of working to move forward. And they were done with typical consultancy. So it needs to be these companies that, okay, there is knowledge out there, but all of these certainty that is teach that if you apply this scientific method from scientific management, this is going to work. It's really target for this type of companies. And this can really work at different scales. Will depend about the support of the executives, because in a small company, CTO joins the workshop, right? Because it's small, medium, CTO might not join, a VP or a director might join. So it needs to be also these companies that are, as I said before, the people that are uncomfortable. Also, the organization is uncomfortable, and it's like this traditional way of working is not working. What is out there? And we, rather than the size, we want to focus on these companies that are there, because these companies are the ones that are going to change the world, are the ones that are going to change the way that they operate, that will really attract the talent. Because let's be honest, although tech, we read about lots of layoffs, there are still more jobs than people. So we have the power to choose organizations that align with our ideals. If I like honesty, if I like transparency, if I like to be involved, I want an organization that match with that. So today organizations are also slowly turning to these values to empower people. Can we support people to have better, well-being, less mental illness? All of these type of things are connected, and this is what we explore. So we are looking more for this type of company that are already primed to this change, rather than the size itself.
Yeah, well put. Actually, just to add on that a little bit, is that companies that probably would hire management consultants to do their bidding, like McKinsey or whatever, they probably wouldn't be our target group here. It would be a company that believes in their own employees and want them to be engaged in work and be happy workers at the place, and they are ready to participate in the design, whatever that is, even if it's strategy or down to the team level or whatever. I mean, it has to be a company that's engaged, that really has a trust with their employees, rather than size. Yes, definitely.
So this all links back to some notes I was taking before about basically whenever it comes to this type of change, you already mentioned there's people who are uncomfortable with their situation in the company. But sometimes we've seen with even like smaller changes, such as, I don't know, I want to convince my boss to do, I can talk about what we see in Advanced Compared all the time, and event storming in our company, but it's difficult because they don't understand such and such or similar things. So the point is always, you don't need to convince people. They kind of need to realize themselves there's a problem. You cannot come from the outside and say you need to change this because of that. Yeah. So how can we help this happen as is? Well, of course, you need to feel some pain. So probably my question is, if we wanted to phrase it in a very simple way, so how could we say this workshop is for you? What problem are we really aiming to solve with this, considering you cannot convince people as such?
Yeah. So think about, right, you have your software architecture, you have your teams, but you constantly see your time to market increasing. And you try different stuff, but because of the environment is constraining you, is not going. And now the managers are, okay, if you have an idea out of the box, we can do this experience. So this is the type of these, inflection points. We are looking for people that are these inflection points, right? Because some companies are already figuring this out for them and they have, generative environments. If we look for Honeycomb, they were always being diverse since the beginning. And because they were diverse, they figured out these problems, right? Some companies are already figuring out that. So, okay, we are looking for these companies that, trying to solve these problems. Can we have better time to market? Can actually, can we attract people by have an inclusive environment where people can do design for things that they like, right? We are IT people, so we like these problems of IT systems and what we solve, but can we empower people rather than have top down? So we are trying to show people that there is a different way of doing things. And if you want to convince your manager, join the workshop. We are also more than happy to go to your company doing this in company. But join the workshop to have the experience. Bring another buddy to do it, and then experience and then go, oh, maybe this can help, or no, thanks for seeding the idea, and in 1 year that's going to go. But these are the types of problems, these mismatches in designs, all of these type of things, because the bodies of knowledge that we were talking before, domain-driven design is nothing new. Although the book has 16, 17, 18 years, Eric Evans was already doing it and brewing the ideas. But there are more things that miss, and this is what the frame that we are bringing, what is already explained from social sciences. But for us, what is really different with software, for instance, this case, is that both software and this case are artificial, right? They are products created by men. They by humans, sorry, not men, but by humans. It's not natural, right? But software has a different quality that is very easy to change in production, is immaterial. While this case, I need to destroy it and go through the production process again to create. And that's why we see industries powered by software going faster and faster and faster. And that's why we see the world going around us so faster. So this is what I keep saying, that the difference is there are a big difference between manufacturing that already use technology versus pure digital companies or companies that leverage digital, right? Because I work in manufacturing during my summers to make money, and move a machine with 100 tons is hard, right? You don't move these easily. But changing software is different, is easier, can also have big consequences, right? Big outages. But this is the difference. And this is what we are trying to solve. Can we have better time to market? Can we eat our outcomes? But at the same time, can we have a culture where people feel safe, feel included, And design are made by the software design is made by people that are actually building this. It's not far away, which means that part of the strategy also need to come to these groups. So this is what we are trying to solve. We know that is a lot. We are not saying we're going to solve this problem for people that have problems with streaming events and we move to this type of architecture. We are going a bit more, and this is why we are going for people that feel uncomfortable, because they try this architecture and try that architecture and move the technology and didn't work. Yes, because there is a bit more outside, and this is what we are trying to solve. Get back to this human-centric, where people that are building this software actually have these design decisions and actually also participate on these strategic decisions, right? And this is not scary, this is not big, because we as humans are responsible, and when we are given responsibilities, we're going to act among them. One example, the SRE community have this concept of error budgets that is actually giving responsibility to these teams. Look, to be profitable, we need to be here. So our SLOs needs to be between A and B. So go and test between A and B. Whatever you do, we don't care. You have your business to run. Don't go above, because we know that these have financial impacts, but please go close, which means that you are learning. So we already have these. We just don't do enough or explain why we should do it. So this is one of the examples that we are, aim to try to solve. Sorry to be so long.
No, it's good. It's all,
Right.
useful, and thanks for clarifying it in great depth, because it's been mentioned many more times than in other small talks. I have to say that there is this sense of uncomfort, and that's what I wanted to explore, because every workshop starts from someone having some kind of pain, as bad as it sounds, but that's what it is. So you want to solve a problem, and you learn from different sources and put it all together and do something that is probably unique or not, or just mixing stuff together and aiming to solve that very problem. And as we are talking about people all the time in this very episode today, I think it's really important what you said, and so thanks for clarifying the point. We are near the end. If there's any questions from the audience, this is like the last call kind of thing. Let's explore a bit if you've had any case studies or some instances where you've seen this in action or working somehow. Has anyone already done this workshop, or in another name or nature? Anything to share?
I can say from my knowledge, this is fairly unique. This is the first time I've seen these elements being put together in sort of a melting pot. I know, of course, social sciences have, or that part of the thing has done this in industries like since, as I mentioned, since the 50s. So there are examples of telcos in Australia, for example, that have done this. So there are numerous examples from around the world, but most of them are in manufacturing, actually, beating even lean in there. So there's all this. So even there, they saw the need to have more of a human-centered and team-focused way of organizing the work. But in IT, we have Agile, of course, right? So we have been trying to do this for quite a while, but we are now bringing this into sort of not that I'm going to say we're going to replace Agile, but we're going to empower it, making it solid, making it more profound, and also introducing, as I said, the mentioned techniques earlier. So no, actually, I don't know, if you have any good examples, but I really haven't seen anyone go down this route as we are going to attempt to do it in this workshop. You probably have some similar.
As far as we know, no one put the social sciences. There are people putting these methods, and there are people teaching these methods, which is more. But bringing the people that study humans and study groups, no one did this. As far as we know, please tell us if because the world is a big place. Someone. In terms of case studies, I'm about to publish a case study with the folks of Team Topologies, that actually is around this. How did we help a company move their operating model? I was there supporting. We did this with their people and use these techniques to reason where the boundaries should go, because they have the typical demand and supply type of organization, the business and the IT, and is the first organization that I know with that side moved to a capability model, that there is a capability, let's say self-fulfillment of broadband. And this capability has a process that have people that are oriented to process, and there's technology, right? Order management system and tracking systems and stuff like that. First company putting this together under the same department and thinking in capabilities. So it's a nice case study to go. We'll go out in a couple of weeks for people to understand how to bring this together and put humans in the center, because the company was on a straitjacket that the time to market was impossible and the need for coordination across the company was gigantic. So bring these, and so there are more and more, and we are looking also to cooperate with more companies to do this, how to do these strategic goals together, how to bring, what are the things, but from a way that we can support them. In technology, to add to what Trond said, the social scientists actually did with two well-known technology companies. One is Microsoft and one was Cisco. So that was already there. Trond decided just...
Yeah, he said, don't talk about me, please.
But there are these two known use cases. So actually it's possible to do it. And some technology companies, things didn't turn out that good to Cisco, but Microsoft was able to reinvent themselves a couple of times. When everyone thought that they were dead, they were able to have. So there are already examples. We are just trying to democratize and expose more people to the thinking, to try to see if the goes out.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Well, then, even more curious about what's going to happen in September. Can't wait. Let's close off, as usual, with some, new ideas or where to start from for our learners online. So anything you can suggest in terms of readings, videos, books, both from you. I know there's going to be some news in the future, but let's not disclose for now. But from other sources or the likes?
Yeah, I have sort of recorded some of my learnings well after I started this, as I said, in 2019. So I've written a few blog posts on this. Of course, they are part of the learning journey. So probably the earlier part is a bit naive at best, but I guess that's somewhere to actually get started, get sort of an easier introduction to the social sciences bit, at least. I mean, all the domain-driven design and team topologies, Wardley map, and there are loads of stuff on online on that. And also, João has some really good posts on this. For videos, I'm not so sure. Do you have any good one, to share?
I will say your talks that are online with Domain-Driven Design Europe and Kandinsky, so people can follow that, where Trond brings what does it mean.
Yeah.
So those videos. And books, let's leave these for September.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can briefly mention there are some books in the social sciences, but to be honest, they are tricky. It's not an easy read at best, any of them. Also, there are loads of papers. Some are better, some are easier some more accessible than others. On that blog that I mentioned, I've listed a few of those papers that I recommend people to have a look at. But I mean, it's not an easy entry, any of them. So yeah, somebody should probably do something about that at some point.
Indeed. Also, what happens, we had one similar interview a few months ago with one of our trainers talking about functional programming, which draws a lot from academic papers and books, and said, man, this is like crazy. So he's trying to distill that somehow, because as to have that book as an entry point is like a mess, to put it nicely. And he always recommends Scott Blashin's book, which also fits with the DDD world. Hi, Scott. Always nice to talk about Scott. Trond, would you type down the name of the blog on the chat section so we all...
if it had a name. It's on LinkedIn, so you can just actually search for my name. Trond Hjorteland.
You mean your blog? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
absolutely. So
because on that blog there is one blog post that is actually listing a few of the reading materials. So you probably have a look at that.
I'll just copy that.
Cool. Good.
Well, thanks, folks, for joining us. We have a last-minute announcement. So we do have a book being written by our two wonderful trainers here, which is going to be published. So the last bit is here for those who remained until the end.
Yeah.
Want to share something about it?
Yeah, sure. We haven't signed the contract yet, so we're probably a little bit premature, but I mean, we are going to do this anyway, either way, or shape or form, because I get asked this question a lot. Do you have any good materials that you can point me towards? And the only thing I point people towards are either my blog post or the papers, which I also mentioned that it's a tricky entry. So I wish I had a book I could sort of point people towards, and this is probably the one that we're going to try to write, you and me and João together. Yes.
Yeah, you saw the difficulty when you ask the question.
Yeah.
And this is what we are trying to do. We're going to try to do it, learn a lot, and the book will be out. We don't know the title yet, but going to tell a story and bring these concepts, because the books on academia and the papers on academia goes even how do we learn and how do we sleep and learn by sleeping, really, really deep stuff. But we're going to, bringing these and meshing with the concepts that we talk. And that's why also we are doing the workshop, because they're going to pair with each other. So actually doing the workshop, it's easier. The book will come out and it's going to be a pair.
Definitely. So and also just to reassure all the social scientists out there that might be listening, we are not gonna reinvent the wheel. We are, of course, we are just putting it in the IT context and making it accessible to people. And all the resources are definitely going to be referred back to the paper. So it's going to be probably a long list of references in the book.
Nice.
For those of you who want to dig,
Good luck with keep writing the book. How is it going? Is it over or no? I guess no.
No. Not at all.
I still have space for more whitetail. So.
Oh yeah. God, I'm getting somewhere now.
Good stuff. So, well, thanks a lot, folks, for joining us for this small talk. We'll see you in September. And, you have the link for the workshop here in the comments. Any questions, you can find João and Trond, as mentioned, on LinkedIn and Twitter. And, see you soon to the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Thank you.